Welcome, everyone, to Domain-Driven Design Essentials. Today, we're really getting into something foundational, understanding the domain itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's easy to think software development is purely about writing code.
Yeah, it is. But it's got to be, well, deeply connected to the actual thing it's supposed to support in the real world.
And if that connection's weak.
Well, that's when problems start creeping in later, especially when, things change, and things always change.
Okay, so let's unpack that. When we say domain, what exactly are we talking about here?
Good question. Think of the business domain as the core activity, the main purpose of a company or organization. What do they do?
Can you give us an example, something concrete?
Sure. Imagine a courier service. Their whole reason for being is getting packages from A to B efficiently. So their business domain is logistics, maybe package delivery.
Okay, I see.
Or, like your local coffee shop, their domain is, well, serving coffee, maybe pastries, creating that whole cafe vibe.
Right, that makes it clear. So if we need to build software for that courier, maybe for tracking,
Exactly. Or for the coffee shop, perhaps an ordering system.
what's the first step before writing any code?
You have to understand that domain deeply. We need to take that real-world activity and create a useful abstraction of it, a model.
A model, so like a blueprint.
Sort of, yeah. It's a way to represent the crucial parts of that domain inside the software, focusing only on what's needed to solve the specific problem we're tackling.
So not every single tiny detail of the coffee shop needs to be in the code for the ordering system.
Precisely. You focus on what matters for that purpose. Actually, this leads us straight into one of the biggest initial challenges: language.
Language. How does language become a hurdle?
Well, think about who's involved in building software.
Yeah.
You've got the domain experts, the people who really know the courier business or the coffee shop inside out.
Right, the logistics manager, the barista.
Exactly. And they speak their own language, filled with business jargon and specific terms related to their work.
Okay, and then you have...
Then you have the technical team, the developers, the engineers, and they naturally speak in terms of code, databases, APIs, tech stuff.
So it's like two different worlds trying to communicate.
It really can be.
Yeah.
And this disconnect in language can lead to some serious misunderstandings down the line.
Can you give an example of that?
Okay, let's take the courier again. The logistics expert talks about a route. For them, that might mean a super optimized path with specific time windows, maybe vehicle constraints.
A really complex idea.
Right. But a developer, hearing route for the first time, might just think, oh, a list of coordinates on a map, a simple line.
Ah, I see. Totally different levels of meaning there. That could cause real problems if the software is built on the wrong understanding.
Absolutely. So how do we fix this? How do we bridge that gap?
Yeah, what's the answer?
This brings us to a really core concept in DDD, the ubiquitous language.
Ubiquitous language. Okay,
Yeah.
it sounds important. What is it?
It's basically a shared common switch that everyone on the project agrees to use. The business folks, the tech folks, product owners, designers, everyone.
Everyone speaks the same language when discussing the project.
Yes, and crucially, it's used consistently in meetings, in emails, in documentation,
And in the code itself.
especially in the code itself. The names you give things in the software classes, variables, functions, they should directly reflect this shared language, this common understanding of the domain.
So back to the route example.
Mhm.
The team would sit down and really hammer out what route means in this specific context.
Exactly. They define it together using terms that make sense to both the logistics expert and the developer. And that definition, that term, is what gets used everywhere.
So no more translation needed between business speak and tech speak.
That's the goal. It eliminates ambiguity, reduces misunderstandings, and makes sure the software actually aligns with the business reality.
That sounds like it would save a lot of time and rework.
It really does. It directly connects that deep business knowledge to the software implementation. Okay, so we've got this shared language.
Right, the ubiquitous language.
Now let's circle back to that idea of the model you mentioned earlier, the abstraction.
Yeah, you said we don't model everything.
Correct. The real world, the actual business domain, is incredibly complex, far too complex to replicate perfectly in software. So the model is our simplified representation.
How do we decide what goes in and what stays out?
That's where understanding the problem is key. Think about maps.
Okay.
You have different maps for different purposes, right? A big world map shows continents and oceans.
Sure, the big picture.
But if you need to navigate the London Underground...
That world map is useless. You need the tube map.
Exactly. The tube map is a model. It leaves out streets, buildings, almost everything about London.
But it shows the stations and lines perfectly for its purpose.
Precisely. It's an abstraction focused on solving a specific problem, navigating the subway. Our domain model is the same. It captures only the essential details relevant to the software's goal.
So building a good model means really understanding the why behind the software, not just the what.
You've got it. It's about grasping the business need, the problem we're trying to solve, not just blindly translating requirements into features.
Okay, that clarifies the modeling part. Now, what happens when the domain itself is huge? Like a massive online retail company. They do so many different things.
Yeah, that scale brings a lot of complexity. Trying to create one single model for everything, it usually doesn't work well. It becomes unwieldy.
So what do we do?
We break it down. We identify smaller, more focused areas within that larger domain. These are called subdomains.
Subdomains,
Yeah,
like mini domains within the big one.
that's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
And crucially, not all subdomains are created equal. They have different characteristics and different importance to the business.
How so?
We generally classify them into three types: core, supporting, and generic.
Okay, let's take those one by one. What's a core subdomain?
The core subdomains are where the business truly differentiates itself. This is their competitive advantage, their secret sauce.
Ah, the stuff that makes them unique and successful.
Exactly. These areas are often complex, they change a lot as the business innovates, and this is where you want your absolute best engineering effort focused.
So for that big online retailer, maybe their recommendation engine, the thing that predicts what I might want to buy.
That's a classic example of a core subdomain.
Hmm.
Okay, next up, supporting subdomains.
Supporting, what are those?
These are necessary for the business to operate, but they don't provide that unique competitive edge. They're usually less complex than core, less volatile.
So important, but not the main differentiator.
Right. Think about, say, the retailer's internal system for managing warehouse inventory. They need it, it has to work, but it's probably not their primary source of competitive advantage. They might build it in-house or maybe even outsource it.
Got it. Core is the differentiator. Supporting is necessary, but not unique. What's the last one?
The last type is generic subdomains.
Generic.
These are essentially solved problems, things where standard solutions already exist, often as off-the-shelf software or established services. Think about user authentication logging users in.
Right. Nobody needs to reinvent login systems these days. Or maybe payment processing.
Exactly. There's no competitive advantage in building your own payment gateway from scratch when excellent, secure third-party options exist. For generic subdomains, the best strategy is usually a buy or integrate an existing solution.
So identifying these subdomain types helps decide where to invest the most effort and resources. Build the core, maybe build or buy. Supporting, definitely buy generic.
That's the strategic thinking, yes. It helps focus development effort where it delivers the most business value.
You mentioned things can shift between these categories too.
Oh, definitely. Domains evolve. Let's say our online retailer initially developed a cutting-edge delivery routing algorithm. Super fast, super cheap. That was their core.
Gave them an edge.
Right. But then maybe a new specialized logistics company pops up, offering an even better cloud-based routing service to everyone for a low price.
Ah, so the retailer's custom solution isn't unique anymore.
Precisely. What was once core might now become a generic problem, better solved by integrating that external service. The business might decide to switch and stop investing heavily in maintaining their own.
That really highlights how business strategy and software design need to be linked. Okay, so we have subdomains breaking down the big picture. But even within a subdomain, things can get tricky, right? With language.
Yes, absolutely. Especially in larger organizations, different departments or teams, even within the same general subdomain, might use the same word to mean slightly different things. Or they might have different processes, different ways of looking at the same concept.
Like the sales team versus the marketing team.
Perfect example. Think about the term lead. For marketing, a lead might be anyone who downloaded a white paper. They have certain data, certain life cycle stages. But for sales, a lead might only be considered a lead once they've been qualified, maybe had a call. They have different data associated with it, different rules.
So the same word lead has different meanings and implications depending on who you ask.
Exactly. And if you try to force one single definition, one single software model of lead onto both teams, you'll likely end up with something that doesn't quite work well for either of them. It causes confusion.
So how do we handle that kind of conflict within the software?
This is where another key DDD concept comes in, the bounded context.
Bounded context. Okay, what does that do?
Think of it as drawing an explicit boundary line within your system. Inside this boundary, a specific domain model and its associated ubiquitous language are applied consistently and are considered the single source of truth for that context.
So it's like saying, okay, within the sales part of our system, this is what lead means and these are the rules.
Precisely. And then you might have another bounded context for marketing, where lead has its own specific meaning and rules consistent within that marketing boundary.
So you allow the same term to have different specific meanings in different parts of the system, but each part is internally consistent.
Yes, it protects the integrity of each model within its specific area. A real-world analogy people sometimes use is the tomato.
The tomato.
Yeah. Botanically speaking, it's a fruit, right?
Uh-huh.
But culinarily, in the kitchen, we treat it as a vegetable.
True. You don't usually put it in a fruit salad.
Exactly. The meaning depends on the context, botany versus cooking. Bounded contexts allow for that same kind of contextual meaning within our software. The term customer might mean one thing in the billing context and something slightly different in the support context.
So deciding where to draw those boundary lines, defining those bounded contexts, is a really important design decision.
It's fundamental. It's how you manage complexity and prevent different parts of the system from corrupting each other's models or language. It keeps things clear and focused within each specific area.
Okay, I think I'm getting it. So how do subdomains and bounded contexts relate?
Hmm?
Are they the same thing?
Good question. They're related but distinct. It can be a bit confusing at first.
Yeah, lay it out for us.
Think of it this way. Subdomains are about the problem space. They represent the different logical parts of the business itself, logistics, marketing, inventory, etc. It's about what the business does.
Okay, the problem space.
The what. Bounded contexts are about the solution space. They define the boundaries within our software system where a specific model and language are consistent. It's about where a particular model is applied.
The solution space. The where. So you might have a bounded context designed to address a specific subdomain.
Often, yes. Ideally, you'd have a close relationship. You might have a bounded context specifically for the recommendations core subdomain, for instance.
But it's not always one-to-one.
Not necessarily. Sometimes a single bounded context might handle parts of multiple subdomains, especially if they're very closely related conceptually in that specific solution. Or a complex subdomain might even require multiple bounded contexts to model its different aspects cleanly.
So subdomains help us analyze the business problem, and bounded contexts help us structure the software solution to keep models consistent.
That's a great way to summarize it. Subdomains identify what needs solving. Bounded contexts define where and how we apply specific solutions consistently. For a tiny system, maybe you only need one bounded context for the whole thing. But as complexity grows, breaking it down becomes essential.
Okay, wow.
Yeah,
That actually ties a lot together. So just to quickly recap then,
you do.
we started with the idea that understanding the actual business domain is paramount. You can't build good software without it.
Absolutely fundamental.
Then, the challenge of language getting business and tech folks aligned using a single shared ubiquitous language.
Crucial for avoiding misunderstandings.
We talk about modeling, creating useful abstractions, like the tube map, focusing on what's essential for the problem at hand.
Right, not boiling the ocean.
Then breaking down big, complex domains into subdomains core, supporting, and generic to guide our strategy.
Helps focus effort where it matters most.
And finally, using bounded context to draw boundaries in the software, ensuring models and language stay consistent within specific areas, even if terms differ between contexts.
Exactly, managing that complexity and potential conflict.
It really paints a picture of DDD being about deeply connecting the software to the business reality and ensuring clear communication.
That's the heart of it, aligning software with the business it serves and making sure everyone involved understands each other clearly.
And it feels like getting this foundation right, really understanding the domain, is the necessary first step for building software that not only works now, but can also evolve as the business changes.
Couldn't agree more. It sets the stage for everything else. Without that solid understanding, you're just building on sand.
So a final thought for our listeners.
Hmm.
Maybe as you go through your day, interacting with different software services, think about the underlying domain. What's the core purpose? Notice the language used. How does the context shape your understanding? And if you're involved in building software, ask yourself, how well do we truly understand our core domain? Is our language clear and shared?
That's a perfect takeaway. Start there.
Great stuff. Thanks for walking us through that. And thank you all for joining this session of Domain-Driven Design Essentials.